Well, with me in the studio this hour, Shiri Fine-Grossman is the CEO of the Israel-Africa Relations Institute. She's also a member of Forum Dvora, Women in Foreign Policy. Welcome, Shiri. I'm also delighted to welcome to the programme Rashid Abdi. He's the research director of the Sahan Research, and he has come here from Kenya. Welcome.
Welcome
to Israel and welcome to the programme.
Happy to be here.
Now, we're going to talk about the Horn of Africa in just one moment, Rashid. But first, Shiri, I want to get your reaction to what you just heard, because I know that you were following very closely events in Syria, particularly in Soweto, when the Druze community were massacred by Jelani's forces and allied militias. Just tell me, how do you feel hearing those people speak?
Well, yes, we have an initiative called Together for Druze, and this is remarkable. This is the future. This is where we're headed. There's so many factors that come together here. First of all, it's a moral issue. We have a minority of 700 or 400,000 people is the last estimate I heard in Soweto, in the Mountain of Jews, who were cut off from electricity, communication. Still, July was the massacre, and we're still coming into winter, and that big community is cut off, and there's still no real solution. And I have to hand it to Prime Minister Netanyahu for really insisting on making this humanitarian corridor into Soweto before moving to normalization on any agreement with the Syrian regime. And so this is very important. And the other issue is, of course, the national security issue. We have many interests in this issue. First of all, is not to have ISIS on our borders, and I think the best way we can do that is partner with the Druze of Syria, and the future is really a partnership of all the minorities in the Middle East, especially the Kurds, Christians, and others. And of course, this is the biggest scare for Turkey, which we're seeing growing strong in the region, Horn of Africa, all over Africa, but also Northern Front, and kind of this circumventing Israel from all sides, which is a trend we're following closely and very worried about in the Israel-Africa relations.
Yeah, well, thank you, Shiri. Let's switch to that now, because I do want to talk about the Horn of Africa region, because a lot of exciting changes are happening there right now, but there is also some potential for instability. Why don't you talk us through what we should be focused on the most in the Horn of Africa region right now?
Well, you're right. I think definitely, the Horn of Africa historically has been a region which, there has been a lot of instability, contested transitions, popular uprising, conflicts. One of the most high-intensity conflicts is currently ongoing in Sudan. You also have countries that are, undergoing their own internal conflicts, and not just one conflict, multiple conflicts. Ethiopia is another example. Then you also have countries which are possibly looking towards more instability because of political transitions. Djibouti's president right now has removed the term limits, and he's going to run at the age of 77 next year. Djibouti is a crucial country. It has the largest concentration of militaries, and there are concerns in the region about the potential for instability in Djibouti. And we also see countries that are perennially where they have contested elections, but also... So I think the outlook overall is a bit, difficult. But at the same time, I don't want to see the Horn of Africa simply through the prism of conflict and crisis. There are opportunities. There are countries, some of the largest economies that are powering ahead are in the region. The largest markets are in the region. You have two countries. You also have countries with actually a very young population. And I think where you have populations elsewhere in the developed world flatlining, then I think you would definitely have and this is an area where I think, Shiri is interested in, the potential for economic takeoff and economic transformation is vast and huge. And I think that is where I see a potential. And I think I've always encouraged my Israeli friends that with the hopefully, if this conflict with Gaza is resolved, or at least there's a decrease of violence, Israel has an opportunity to look after its economic interest, but also to bring some of the technologies which Israel has as scientific know-how to some of these economies. And there are actually, Israel should compete. Right now, there is a vast competition, a scramble for the Horn of Africa.
There are foreign powers operating in this area, as Shiri alluded to, right?
Absolutely. And I think Israel is the only power missing, and it shouldn't be missing. And I tell my friends as well, the world should not see Israel just through the prism of Gaza. It is a tragic situation, yes, but hopefully it will be resolved.
Irrigation technology, science, all the rest of it. Thank you. So, Shiri, why isn't Israel more involved in this region?
Well, because, you know, we don't have that many resources to spare, and we're very involved in you know, existential threats and conflict. We discussed this with Rashid throughout the couple of days. But I think, you know, what I'm trying to tell the Israeli ecosystem, and this is what I've learned in the last couple of years, as we have a strong story to tell in Africa. We have a shared history. We have a very similar culture, you know, with you know, with family and relationships, and these are things that we have in common. Like we see in the Abraham Accords countries, a lot of the some of the similarities, but of course there are differences. So this is it's just the story goes back 3,000 years to the Queen of Sheba and King Solomon, honestly. And there's no other nation in Africa that can actually say that. Even the Chinese, who go everywhere and say we have a deep relationship. And this is kind of this narrative and story we have to tell, the ties.
And the Chinese are there, of course.
Exactly, but and also there's a lot of Christians in Africa that pray for Israel.
Who identify with Israel as well.
Yeah.
So that is the kind of affinity which isn't.
There's the evangelist Christian movement.
And lots of advantages.
Since Africa is going to be the biggest populated continent in
the next
world,
50 years.
This is the time to invest. It's a little bit late, but not too late.
Yeah, and of course, the real hot topic for the Horn of Africa right now is Somaliland and whether or not the United States will recognise its independence. Do you think that will happen soon?
I think there's definitely a serious move in that direction. We have seen the processes getting underway, a review, first of all, of the overall US-Somali relations. But also a very strong signal from the conservative establishment within the United States, part of the Republican wing which supports Trump. We see at the policy level, but also within the legislature, very strong bipartisan support for Somaliland. Now, the process is getting underway.
Ted Cruz spoke about it, didn't he?
Exactly.
The Republican senator.
Yes, the process is getting underway. I think, because the United States is a very complex state, and it doesn't make a rash decision like that. It will take some time. But I think the processes, the foundations are being laid for the eventual recognition of Somaliland. It may.
So, if you were to put a time frame on that, what would you say?
I will take probably years.
You think it could be several more years? Because from Israel's point of view, it's particularly interesting because, of course, Somaliland is right across the border from Yemen.
It's part of the Red Sea.
And it could bring phenomenal stability, much needed stability.
No, I totally agree. And I think United States announcing a recognition of Somaliland is the game changer. And I think many nations will probably come behind that. Israel will probably come immediately behind that as well. But I think the initial, the road plan, as far as I can judge, is a gradual phased process in which, first of all, the United States builds a military base and opens a liaison office, and that, you know. And I think the problem with that approach as well is that the geopolitical window is very narrow. And it may shut down, and the opportunity probably is lost. But all I can
Mogadishu is lobbying really hard all the while.
Mogadishu is lobbying very hard. It has powerful enemies, powerful adversaries of Israel, but also powerful adversaries of Somaliland's independence. This includes China, Turkey, Qatar. These are massively resourced countries, and nobody is fighting Somaliland's corner. The United States is being ambivalent. And I think unless you see a very robust push by Somaliland, by friends of Somaliland, then I think this geopolitical window could be lost.
Could close, as it's not top of the list of priorities for President Trump right now. Yeah,
absolutely.
So the mechanics of it. So these challenges actually meet the Abraham Accords desire, kind of the machine of the Abraham Accords in the White House to continue to bring more countries to the Abraham Accords, and I think that's what's working to counter those challenges. And the way Jared Kushner, if you saw, everybody saw the 60 Minutes interviews, the momentum is so important. We saw that throughout the process of the Abraham Accords. We were pushed also all the time, just move forward, move forward, move forward. So they want to keep that momentum going, and for that they need these wins that for the administration are not very big, or not very dramatic, or not as complicated as resolving Sudan and getting recognition, normalization back there. So I think this is one of the key things that is actually working for Somaliland and for Israel to have Somali recognition even under this administration.
So just keep up the momentum. Just a quick word to talk about, because we talk a lot, don't we, about attitudes towards Israel in the United States and Europe, and all the data points to a real decline in support for Israel among young people. What is the situation in East Africa, in the Horn of Africa region? Where you talked about a very young continent. How do those people feel about Israel?
Yes, and I think first of all there hasn't been a real public opinion survey scientifically which has been carried out. My own sense is that the view is mixed. The war in Gaza definitely has undermined Israel's standing and credibility. But I think people oversell the idea that Israel is a pariah state, and these are the lobby groups which actually demand Israel to be shunned and to be isolated. I think
we saw it with South Africa. Of course.
Exactly. I think the reality is that Israel has deep relations with East African states. It's a military partner, it's a security partner. Kenya's counterterrorism effort will have been significantly diminished. If
Kenya, of course, has had its own problems with Islamist terrorism.
If it wasn't for Israeli support. Israel is the backbone of Kenya's security establishment and Kenya's security progress that has been made against the insurgency. We see similar. So Israel has to translate this security military hard power projection into economic. And this is where I think Shiri comes in. Israel has underplayed its hand. It has not deployed that soft power. Very few African students come to Israeli universities. Very few, conferences take place to discuss critical minerals which power the green future, lithiums and all that, come from Africa. We don't see, Israel really becoming much more critical as a stakeholder. Countries which are don't have scientific know-how are actually, in the forefront. And so this is why I say, first of all, there is a lot of propaganda against Israel, which does not reflect the reality on the ground. But Israel also isn't doing itself a favor by sitting on its laps and basically
a bit of apathy, perhaps. Yeah,
absolutely.
Well, we can forgive them. Israel has been a little bit busy over the past 2 years, but let's hope things change. And you bring a lot of great ideas. Great to meet you. Thank you so much, Rashid Abdi,
Thank you very much.
Shiri Fine-Grossman. Thank you.
Thank you, Laura, for having us.